Time for a high and low quick bite. I'm Ike Amaechi. I'm here with Mitch Orsatti, Ugo, Sean Khan, and Stephen Leslie. Welcome back, Sean. We've had extensive conversations about the importance of winning championships, especially when it comes to assessing the careers of the great ones. We've also had some conversation about the value of a regular season MVP versus the value of a finals MVP, and I think both conversations have direct correlation. So let me put it into a pot, stir it up, and serve you with this question. Thinking about what it takes to build a legacy in the NBA, would you rather be the player who wins 5 MVPs with 1 title or the player who wins 5 titles with 1 MVP? Let's start with Sean Khan.
If you've got one MVP, you're obviously a very good player already. So if you're lucky enough to win 5 titles, you're obviously playing with other greats. And when other greats play together, it generally takes away from their individual, stats and not performances, but stats. This is kind of the Kobe question because he has just the 1 MVP, but 5 titles, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he also has only 2 scoring titles, which is surprising because he was one of the greatest scorers of all time. What you really want to be is Jordan. 5 MVPs and 6 or 6 in titles.
Of course.
Yeah, so I'll end it with that.
All right. So you'd rather be the Kobe?
I think I'd rather be the Kobe just because if you look at his career too, like what an impact he had on the game, right? Mm-hmm. I'm trying to think of like another comparable, but there's not really many guys who have 5 MVPs or it's 1 title. So it's like it's not a real thing.
But. I mean, even if it's like 3, 4 MVPs, but
it's bordering on the Kobe versus LeBron discussion. Obviously, LeBron has a lot of titles, but he also has a lot of finals losses, which I think takes away from his titles in some people's eyes. Like not mine, but so it's kind of like the Kobe versus LeBron question. Who would you rather be? I'd probably rather be LeBron than Kobe, but he also has 4 titles.
Yeah.
So,
all right, Steven, what do you think? Who would you rather be?
So then I'm going with 5 titles and 1 MVP. That gives me the opportunity to win multiple finals MVPs. So it just seems better. So if you want to give me that Kobe Bryant career, then I'm happy with it. I know Tim Duncan has 5 titles. He has 2 MVPs, but like that's still a great accomplishment. Those 2 guys are still like the greatest players to play the game, right? I'm not about losing or not getting the opportunity to get titles and just get MVPs. Regular season doesn't mean much to me. So that's what I'm rocking with.
And Ugo, what do you think?
Well, the answer is clear. 5 titles, 1 MVP. Just because you don't win an MVP does not mean that you're not one of the top players, one of the greatest players of all time. 5 titles pretty much guarantees you Hall of Fame and guarantees you're going to be in the top 20 conversation, especially if you perform well. Now, if we're talking, 5 titles or 7 titles like a Robert Horry, that's a different story. But, 5 MVPs, that's a very individual award. There definitely would be some controversy in somebody winning it 5 times. But to only show 1 title for that, I mean, you'd be labeled as a great player, but not a winner, right? Versus the 5 titles where you'll be known as a winner wherever you go. And, regardless of, you have the 1 MVP, but, that still gives, I mean, you only have to really win MVP once to be validated. You don't have to win it multiple times. But 5 titles would make you a winner, and everybody loves a winner.
I'm trying to figure out how many did Wilt win? How many MVPs did Wilt win before he got a second title? Because he's got 4 MVPs, 2 titles, and I know he won that last title at the end of his career with the Lakers.
Yeah, but Wilt's looked at.
I'm thinking that might be the closest comp.
Yeah, but Wilt is looked upon as a great individual player. I don't think he's ever been looked upon as a great team player or a winner, so to speak.
And he has 4 MVPs only.
That's what I said. So 4.
Oh, he did? Okay, sorry.
Yeah. Because I'm just trying to think of who the closest comp would be to the 5 MVPs, 1 title.
Wilt is probably the closest.
You
You know who might end up
Giannis.
if it went went that way.
Giannis.
You could see Harden in that discussion too. If he ever wins a chip, he could have easily racked up 5
Oh, yeah.
MVPs before it's all said and done. If he stayed in Houston, especially.
Yeah.
This is Harden's best chance to win a chip right now, obviously.
Well, Mitch, why don't you go? Who would you rather be? I think I know where this is going, but
Make it interesting, Mitch. Come on.
I'm gonna make it interesting by. Nah, I'm not gonna make it interesting. Of course, you go with you go with the 1 MVP and the 5 chips because you know what? There is a small argument to be made for 5 MVPs and 1 chip because like maybe you got there 6 times but you lost, right? Like winning a title is hard. Winning 5 MVPs puts you in extremely rare air. So I could see there being a discussion for it, but that's not for me. Give me my chips, and I'll have a small amount of dip. My 1 MVP.
who's making more money?
Definitely. I mean, definitely the 5 MVPs person, just because you have to pay that because it's going to be baked into like contract incentives.
It depends. Though, if you're winning
I don't think so.
championships.
I think the 5 titles wins more because you're bringing a lot more money to your organization. It shows that you're winning, and we're only talking about the 5 titles. You have the opportunity to get 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 Finals MVP. So that weighs a
But
lot.
how does any
That's
of what
not-
you just said count for money?
Yeah.
What do you mean? Because your team is always
bringing
in
more
the
money to
finals.
your bringing more money to your organization doesn't give you any more money.
Yes, it does.
Not
You get paid
No.
as a max contract. Listen, if a guy is always bringing his team to the finals, that guy is being paid.
But there's not a guarantee that you're the guy bringing your team to the finals every time. That's not a guarantee in this situation. If
And
you
but
have
Look at the
5
example. Look
MVPs,
at Kobe.
But then you
Was Kobe
wouldn't
not
be.
making
Yeah,
a lot of money.
you
but this
wouldn't be on the team.
isn't saying Kobe. It's saying 1 MVP and 5 titles.
But the
I didn't
example.
say anything about.
Yeah,
I didn't say
that's
anything
your-
about finals MVPs.
No,
That's
no,
your
anything.
conjecture, right? Like
you-
the only thing we have to base this off is 5 MVPs and 1 title, or 1 title and 5 chips. And the 5 MVPs, is going to bring max contracts every time because you're an MVP 5 times.
But 5
Winning 5
titles.
titles doesn't guarantee. Didn't Hugo just bring up Robert Ory? Didn't have a max contract in his whole life, right? He didn't win an MVP, sure, but there's no guarantee.
But what are we
for a
really
max
talking
contract.
about here? One guy makes 34 million, the other guy makes 28 million. Like,
Well, yeah,
talk
Ken's
about more money.
question was
You have to look into like what teams bring in more money as well, and where are the opportunities to make money outside of basketball? If you're the 5 MVP guy or if you're the 5 title guy.
Yeah,
Probably the 5 MVP guy.
Again, I don't think the team
Maybe.
bringing in a certain amount of money has anything to do with it because that's.
I think a
not
lot of it has to do with the guy's
correlative.
personality too. But
Sure,
yeah.
of course.
Yeah,
The
so
guys that I
thing-
used in my example with 5 titles, like Tim Duncan or Kobe Bryant, it's not like they're bouncing different teams to win these titles.
No, of
They're
course
on the
not.
same team, but they also have the MVP. Robert Ory is not in the same conversation because he does not have an MVP.
No,
At
I know,
least
but the
one.
question is not would you rather be Kobe or Tim Duncan?
It's
Would you rather have these things?
But you have to have an MVP with titles to be in this conversation.
Yes, okay, so let's say
Ory
this.
is irrelevant.
Let's say this. You win 1 your first year, and then you win a chip. And then your next 4 years, no MVP. You could have dropped off hard and still been part of a championship team.
Derrick Rose.
But not for 5.
Derrick Rose.
But let's
Rose.
use real people that actually have MVPs and titles.
Okay, but in this situation, there is no real person for the other side of it. There's no 5 MVPs and 1 title. That doesn't exist.
I want to say Andre Iguodala, but he was still making a lot of money and he didn't drop off that much. But he was
it's dicey
20
because
game guy.
if you get the 1 MVP, you're pretty much considered a max player for at least 1 contract. So
1 contract though, but if you have 5, you're a max player for the rest of your career.
You're also playing with other good players who are probably close to max players as well. If we're talking about a guy like Kobe caliber who's winning titles and playing with other great players, they're probably taking a cut out of your salary as well. So
yeah,
it's a sacrifice.
To be honest with you, I think if you win 5 MVPs, now who knows how that's spread around over the course of a person's career, but 5 MVPs pretty much means that you're the face of the league.
Yeah.
Regardless of whether they're winning the championships or not, to be in that conversation that often to the point where you actually win the MVP award 5 on 5 different occasions means that it just means that you're front and center. So usually the player that is the face of the league They usually have the big endorsement contracts, and just as Mitch was saying, you're going to get the supermax contracts.
And sorry,
So, I mean,
let alone face of the league. 5 MVPs, you're like one of the best to ever play. Like that's where that puts you, right? Like,
Did we ever find anyone that has that ratio of 1 to 5? Because I don't think it's possible. I think whoever's giving out the awards are going to stop giving it to you because you haven't won a title yet. So just like Giannis,
I don't think
Giannis
so.
isn't. I know, but like psychologically,
if you have one, it's the same example on the other end, right? You have 5 chips, but you got your 1 MVP, so it's fine. You got your 1 chip and you got 5 MVPs, so it's fine, right? Like both have merit. Look, Sean, you wanted me to make it interesting, right?
I've heard like I've seen players in all sports get criticized for only winning 1 title, right? Like Aaron Rodgers, for example. Like how many? 3 or 4 MVPs?
Yeah, he gets
just the 1 title.
But you know what?
He gets a lot of criticism.
That doesn't happen as much in the NBA. There's so much criticism for guys who win none. There's almost no criticism for guys who have won 1.
In the NBA, it's usually there's more what you call it, like
you got to win the one on your own.
I can't think of the word. Yeah.
All right. Well,
there's more dynasties. That's the word. Like they're teams will win 3 or 4 years in a row, or 3 out of 5 years. Whereas NFL,
I mean, I think it's quite possible for a guy to win 1 MVP and win 5 titles, because I think, especially this day and age, guys team up, right? So the more stars you team up with, the less luster there is. Like you think of Kevin Durant, James Harden, and Kyrie Irving. Their chances of winning MVPs, they're diminished because they're on the same team. Exactly. And even when KD was working was playing with Steph, Steph was taken right out of the MVP discussion, even though this guy was a back-to-back MVP. Just the year prior. So
true.
It's quite possible for someone to win that first MVP and then just play on a dynasty for the rest of their career. You know what I mean? So it's just a matter of preference. You want to be the guy who's, obviously if you're winning 5 MVPs, that means that you are the number 1 guy on your team. You're not sharing the spotlight with anybody.
Don't you think Harden has become more of an MVP since getting traded to Brooklyn?
1,000%.
This year?
Yep.
100%.
This year? He's like the anomaly of what you just said.
Yep.
Yeah.
But it's because they keep saying KD, Harden, and Kyrie. KD has missed so many games.
Yeah.
So it should disqualify him, but people keep saying his name. And I'm like, I don't know. The amount of games Harden has played on his own, because Kyrie wasn't there for a bit, and then just with Kyrie, I'm like, guys, let's talk some real stuff about this guy. But I'm not.
His leadership has been like the most increased attribute, I think.
This is big for you, coming from you, Sean. That was your big question, right?
He might.
I know it was
all second.
It always was. Yeah,
that's right. All second team.
Exactly. Well, statistically, his points per game are down, but since he's been traded, but his assists are way up, rebounds are up.
And KD is the one that's kept Kyrie in check. Blake Griffin said that it was KD that recruited him. It wasn't DeAndre Jordan. Yeah. Apparently it's KD. KD is the leader of that team, right? And I think he's proven his value there more so than any other place.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'd go to Brooklyn if DeAndre Jordan asked me. It would have to be a good player.
Oh, that hurts.
Why? Is DeAndre a personal friend of yours?
No, I'm just saying, man. It's kind of like, yo, this guy asked you to play. Nah,
it's a little bit disrespectful.
Yeah, man, that hurts, man.
No. Sean, get off the fence, okay? Don't prove Cameron correct, please. All right. Okay. With all that said, that has been another High and Low Quick Bite. Look for these Quick Bite segments every week only on this YouTube channel, along with other bonus content you won't find on the official weekly podcast. So like, comment, and subscribe. And thank you for listening to High and Low. We'll see you next week.